Isaias, the monster who is oppressing his people. Then you read about these guys crossing the Mediterranean, and nothing positive. Now, one time I am attending the annual conference of the African Studies Association in Washington. I go to a session where they are discussing Eritrea, and even academics are hammering away at Eritrea. Nothing positive. 2 hours of discussion, negative, negative, negative. So I asked, what kind of country is Eritrea where nothing good happens? Where nothing positive at all happens? So that everything you hear about Eritrea, whether it's from academics or media, is bad, 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 negative stuff. So anyway, to cut the long story short, I made my way to Asmara at some point. I just decided I wanted to go to Asmara and see Eritrea and talk to Eritreans and talk to Eritrean leaders and try to understand what kind of country is Eritrea. Now I can tell you that I came out of Eritrea feeling extremely angry. And I was angry about all the stuff that I had read about Eritrea and believed. Because a lot of what I had read about Eritrea, some of it was accurate, because Eritrea is not a paradise, there are problems there. But there are so many things that happen in Eritrea which I think are very good things that the rest of us in Africa should know about, but which no one tells us about. Absolutely no one. So how do you reshape the narrative about Eritrea, about Africa, and what I am describing about Eritrea is the same thing that I could say about Zimbabwe under Mugabe. Because again, Mugabe was doing some nasty things. But the story was not nuanced adequately for us to be able to understand what's the context that led to where Zimbabwe ended up. Because if you know that Mugabe is behaving badly, but you also know how he got there, then it changes your entire understanding of what Zimbabwe is about. So I think that in terms of doing this, there is no way we are going to reshape the narrative about Africa until we Africans are writing about ourselves, until we Africans begin to consume news that is not entirely coming from external sources. Now, some of the people I've had the most difficult discussions with since I came out of Eritrea and wrote differently about it are fellow Africans. 2 years down the road, I'm still arguing with people, fellow academics, about Eritrea, because for them, Eritrea is the monster, Isaias, and these poor Eritreans who are leaving their country because they're being oppressed, and nothing else. Anything else doesn't matter. What matters is what the BBC is saying about Eritrea, what the New York Times is saying about Eritrea.
So that speaks to the difficulty of shifting perspectives by people who are already feeding from...
Yes, so how you shift that without, say, sending... And when I came out of Eritrea, the stories I wrote them for the East African newspaper, which is a regional newspaper. Now, I was lucky that I knew the editors, and so I was able to get that story into that newspaper. But I'm not sure, Mr. Rubin, you said write for a foreign audience. I'm not sure that a story about Eritrea that doesn't tell the normal quote-unquote story about Eritrea will get very easily into a Western newspaper that has been churning out negative articles over the last 20 years.
Okay. Goloba, thank you. Arthur, you've been sitting on the leadership of this association of public broadcasters. What kind of conversation goes on in terms of countering the narrative, or indeed helping to reshape narrative amongst your colleagues from around the African continent?